Okay, so we are recording. Oh, and here's Andy. Andy, hi Andy, welcome. We're not used to having an audience.
I know, right? I'm starstruck.
So welcome to episode 12, which means we've been doing these a whole year. That just occurred to me. So that's awesome.
Oh, wow, what's
yeah.
a month, huh?
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Carolyn, and this is my colleague Christian. And Christian and I are going to talk to you today about learning objects. Carol, I think maybe your mic is open, and could you maybe mute yourself? You wouldn't mind? There you go. So we're going to talk today about learning objects and what they are and how they can be used, and how you too could have a learning object in your class through the magic of CETIS Design. So I'm going to talk just a couple of seconds here first about what a learning object is and why you might want to use it, and then we're going to show you a couple examples, and then talk you through how what will be the next steps if you're interested in having a learning object made for your class. So a learning object, first of all, is any interactive digital content that can be used, reused in a class. You typically only think of them, another term for them might be a tutorial, like an online tutorial kind of a thing. There's lots of different kinds, and we build all kinds of different kinds of learning objects. One kind might be a lecture. Now, typically you think of as lecture as just something you videoed, maybe using Kaltura or maybe even WebEx as we're doing today. We're recording this. But you can also create interactive lectures. So you could be lecturing, talking about a topic, stop, ask a question, so that you're checking the understanding as you're going through the material that you're lecturing on. Hi, Andy.
Hey, Carol, how are you?
I'm good. No, that's okay. We just got started, so you're good. I will ask you just to mute, and then if you have a question, you can unmute and jump in anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, no problem. So as I was saying, you can create an interactive lecture, so you stop and do sort of check your understanding questions, and kind of by that way you can, at least the student is gauging their own understanding of the lecture. You could do a demonstration. One of the sample learning objects that we're going to show you today is one that Christian created on Kaltura. And demonstrations and simulations are very close cousins in terms of teaching somebody to use software or an application. A demonstration, naturally, is you're just showing them how it works. You're demoing the software. But you can also create simulations where the learner has to interact with the screen as if they were in the application, which can be a very effective way to teach somebody to do something on a computer. And then you can also build my favorite, which is branching scenarios. These are often sort of mini case studies where you stop and you ask the student to make a decision. We often think of them as being built in terms of the 3 C's. And so you have content, then you have a challenge, and then you have a consequence. And what these do is they let the learner have a relevant problem that they have to solve and make a decision within that problem in a safe environment. And in our field, the field that we all work in, the healthcare field, that that can be invaluable. You don't want students practicing on real patients right out of the gate. So you can do these branching scenarios so they can be in a safe environment and feel safe to fail and make a mistake and learn from that mistake and not be having real-world consequences because of it. So these learning objects, they promote active learning. They promote interaction with the content. They're a lot less passive than some, like just a lecture might be online. They can help students understand difficult to understand topics, topics that they might typically struggle with. So if you're looking for content that might lend itself well to an online learning object, you might be looking for those kinds of topics that students always have a problem with. As I said before, they give students low-stakes practice in a safe environment so they can fail safely. As I heard it said once, and I like this term, they can fail forward. so they can fail but learn from their failure and move forward in their learning. And they can also make it easier to flip your classroom. If you've got a face-to-face classroom and you want more time for hands-on learning in the classroom, an interactive online lecture can really go a long ways towards setting that up. So we're going to show you a couple examples here, and these are just really just 2 examples of many kinds of things that we can build. The first one, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then I'm going to flip it over to Christian, who's going to show you another example, but let me share Google Chrome here.
And while Carolyn is bringing that up, I think one of the most important things to note here with learning objects is it's a form of active learning rather than passive learning. So rather than a student sitting down and listening to something and really not taking an active effort in doing anything, it's more likely that they'll lose some of the information. But with an object like this where they have to interact with the information on the screen, it kind of puts their mind in the right frame set to receive what they're getting out of the learning object.
Right, exactly. So hopefully you should be seeing my computer screen with the respiratory ethics case study showing. Okay, good. This is an example of a branching scenario that I built for our respiratory program. It actually lives, you may have heard of the respiratory TOOC, the Targeted Open Online Course that we have for respiratory. And so this was built for that course. And what it does is it walks the student through an ethics case study. And Carol, I know social work has, you know, a lot of content that goes to ethics. In fact, I built one similar for Jan Ricks, but I don't know that she's using it. But really, any of the fields in the allied health sciences have ethics components to it, and so these work really well for them because there are no right answers. There are some answers that are better than others, but they're not necessarily, you know, real clear-cut right-wrong answers. So what this does is it asks the student to walk through this case, and it introduces the case. And what we have here is a terminal patient who's on life support, and it gives the student the background on the patient case. And this is the doctor that kind of walks the student through sort of the thread that's through the whole learning object. This doctor kind of acts as the mentor to the student. And so this is more background and more about his case. And then the student can even see the patient chart. These are his vital signs and his chart information. And then they get to a point where they have to answer a question. And so the first question they're answering here is their assessment of his condition. And so if they choose the wrong answer, then their mentor gives feedback that's relevant, that's real. And the way these can be set up, you can make them very complex so that based on a student decision, there's a consequence and it leads down a certain path. The way we always describe these are they're like choose your own adventures. So you make a decision, and based on that decision, something happens next. Or you could be fairly simple. This one's actually fairly simple in that if you choose the wrong answer, you get feedback. Dr. Soul Patch, that's what I call him, tells you why your answer's not right, and then you get to try again. And so the correct answer in this one, and notice it's even checking off the answer you already chose, so you know that's not right. So the correct answer is this one. Whoops, I was wrong again. Look at that. Here it is, this one. And now you get to go on. So in this particular one, the way it's set up is that the student can't move on until they get the right answer. And this continues on through the scenario. The family actually gets involved. There are decisions to make about the family's position and attitude toward the patient and their willingness and unwillingness to say, okay, he's terminal, he's not going to get better, we're going to remove life support. And you know, this is something I never realized until I built this, is the respiratory therapist. If you think about it, we all heard the term, you know, pull the plug, you know, I don't want to be in a vegetative state. Well, it's the respiratory therapists that have to do that. And I mean, that's a huge, huge responsibility. So this branching scenario kind of walks the student through what are the established ethics, ethical protocols for those kinds of decisions, and how you work with the family as they struggle to make those decisions. So this is just one example of the kind of thing we can make. all the assets. We gathered all the assets together, the backgrounds, the characters, and built the navigation and everything. And then this can be scored. So you can actually we didn't actually score this one. This one, you get points for completion, but because it's ethics and you don't really want to grade people on their ethics, this one is just, you get the points if you complete it. But you can score them based on the number of answers gotten right and the answers gotten wrong. They can be communicated, that score can be communicated to Blackboard. So it's a very versatile kind of learning tool to put in your toolkit. So, so I'm going to turn it over to Christian and let him show you. Let me just stop sharing. Let's do that first. And if you have any questions along the way, just jump in. And let's see, Christian, I want to make you presenter. There you go.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay. So can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So you should be seeing the Kaltura training. So one of the other things with learning objects is there's a vast majority of ways to integrate technology like video and interactive pieces into these learning objects. So what I pulled up here is something we recently released, and that's the Kaltura training. So if you haven't seen that or you haven't figured out how to access that, just as a quick plug, it's on our website under faculty resources, and what we'll do is we'll put this link in the description for the YouTube video if you're watching this after the fact. If you're live with us, we'll go ahead and put that into the chat room so you can grab that and take a look at that at your leisure. Now, the reason I wanted to show everybody this particular learning object is because we used some interactive pieces where you as the learner will have to go through in a simulated fashion and click on things to make the screen progress, to really give you a hands-on kind of feel that you were using the actual interface. So I'm going to click on this little hands-on icon here, and that's going to dump me over to the hands-on section. So this is, if you've ever used Kaltura, it should look familiar to you. It's the desktop recording application. And everything here on this screen is clickable. So if I want to learn a little bit about, let's say, the library tab, if I click on that, it's going to pull up what that would look like. It's going to give me some information about what is on the library tab. And then I can navigate back to the main screen and go someplace else. So let's say settings, perhaps. Gives me the same kind of information, but then there's also a simulation here. So if I were to click on this little button that we embedded into the object, it's going to open up a simulation where I'm going to be walked through, hey, these are the steps that you need to follow to make changes in the settings tab. So for example, this is saying we need to change where Kaltura stores our videos. If you've ever recorded a video using CaptureSpace, it's in a really weird location. And to make it easier, we want folks to change that. So I'm going to click the Browse button. It's going to simulate a file browser opening up. We're going to select the videos folder, and I'm going to click OK. So very, very simple, but walks you through and gives you the feeling as though you were making the changes, but it's in a safe environment where you're not really doing anything to the actual interface. So I'm going to finish this up real quick here.
Yeah, I would just toss in, a lot of times people, one of the barriers to learning software or learning an application is they're afraid they'll break it.
Yeah.
You know, they'll click a button and, you know, life as we know it on the planet will end. And
right.
So these are nice because you can't break anything because you're not really in the software, you're right. In the simulation. So I think these are great learning tools.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's considered active learning. So I mean, lectures are great. It's fantastic to give a lecture. There's a lot of information in them, but that's passive learning. The student or the learner, they're just sitting there and they're listening. They're not really doing anything. So getting a hands-on type of experience lends itself to better learning or better absorption of what they're trying to ascertain through the material. Now, one of the other things that I'll point out is with this type of learning object, there are multiple decision points where the user makes a choice, and we call this user choice learning. where the actual learner kind of drives their own path. So if they want to learn about this presentations and lectures section, they can click on that. Or if they want to go down and learn about how to use this screen, they can click on that. There's no real linear flow, so they can choose what they want to learn in the moment. And that includes everything over here on the left-hand side. If they are lacking a term understanding, they can go to the glossary and check out, hey, what does the mashup tool mean? That's kind of a weird thing. And it'll talk to them about what that particular term is, so that in context of going through this training, they get that background knowledge as required. So again, active learning is the key with a lot of these learning objects, in giving them the safe environment to go through these types of scenarios, whether it's in something as structured and intense as the respiratory therapy decision maker or decision tree, or something like this where you're just, hey, I want to learn about this. I'm going to click on this segment and go to that. They're excellent ways to really boost the engagement and the outcomes of your objectives for your course. So I'm going to stop sharing that. Carolyn, did you want to add anything before we talk about how our users get in touch with us to make one of these?
No, I think you covered it, so I think we're ready to move on to that part.
Cool. So the last thing that we wanted to leave you guys with is, let's say you want to use one of these in your course and you want to have it created. We applaud you, first of all. That's awesome. We are always looking for opportunities to get this kind of technology into your hands and to use it in the classroom, because let's face it, our college is growing very, very rapidly online. And when you're in an online environment, the more that you can put hands-on stuff in your course, the better it's going to be. Because it's very easy, having taken online classes myself, to sit in a chair, click, 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 and not get anything out of it. But when you're interacting your learners and you're engaging them in a way that these learning objects lend themselves to, you're really boosting the online community with your course. So the first step is just to reach out to us. Use the CETIS Help email address, and that's cetishelp@uc.edu. And just say, hey, you know what, I want to set up a conference to talk about creating a learning object. And then myself, Carolyn, any one of us here at the CETIS team will bring you into the office. We'll sit down and talk about what your ideas are, and then we'll plan out some kind of structure that we can essentially bring your objectives of your course into the learning object. And then we'll find out what are the flows, what are the mental models that you want to use within the learning object, and then we'll come up with essentially a draft. Turn that back over to you so you can take a look at it and get an idea of what the end product would be. We'll make some adjustments, and then we'll create the final learning object that we'll send back to you. But the key there is it all starts with the consultation, sending that email, getting in contact with us, and then coming in and seeing us so we can kind of take you along for the ride, so to speak, in making this a possibility. Anything to add, Carolyn?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is a question I get a lot of times is, well, how long does it take to make one of these? Yeah. And that's, it depends. It depends on a number of things. It depends on how complex it is. Yeah. It depends on your availability to consult with us and provide the content. And then it depends kind of where we're at in the semester sometimes because of the course building schedule that we sometimes have. But in general, if we get, if the stars all align and we get the content we need from you, and we do have tools that can help you, like for instance, the branching scenario, we have some tools that help you kind of plan out, okay, where do my branches go, where do I want decision points, things like that. Assuming we get the content from you, you know, we can usually turn one of these around, Christian, I'd say probably 2 weeks if we have everything, yeah. The respiratory one I worked on for quite a while, but it was tough kind of getting Shane nailed down sometimes to get the content from him. So, but all, you know, total, it probably took me about 20 to 25 hours to build this. So, you know, less than a week if I were working on it all, you know, all at once. So a lot of it's just, you know, dependent on the particular learning object and how available you are to work with us. So.
And that's something that we'll bring up in the initial consultation is
Right.
based on what we're hearing from you and your ideas, we'll pitch an initial timeline that we expect to take.
So, any questions?
I have one, guys, if that's okay.
Okay.
This is Andy.
Yeah, sure.
So the branching scenario, this is probably a stupid question, but is it portable then? Like you could use it on Blackboard, you could use it on our school website if people wanted to take it in the community, or so you could pretty much do what you want with it. It would.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. One of the brilliant things that Christian has come up with is how to house these assets in the cloud, essentially. So what you were seeing on my screen was actually running from our Google Drive account. So all you need is the link, and it runs. Now, having said that, if you want it to live in Blackboard and report to Blackboard, so if you want it to report the score to Blackboard, then it has to be loaded a little bit differently, so it's actually within Blackboard, but that's not that difficult, and it's easy, it can be done. So
Okay, that's
helpful. So anybody who has the link to that, well, either one of them really, Christian, because the other one's run on Google too. So if you have that link, you can play it anywhere where you have a browser. And bonus, the tool we use to publish these, they run on mobile devices as well. So
wow. Okay,
yeah, they're mobile
that's good to
compatible.
know. Okay.
One thing that you said, Carolyn, that I want to kind of expand on, these learning objects, they can be assignments. There's a way to use essentially a SCORM model where it exports a grade to Blackboard. So that's some more food for thought. These aren't just standalone, hey, let's try to engage the students. They can be actual assignments.
Right.
And like you say, they're pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that you saw is running from Google, the one that the branching scenario is running from Google, but the way it's in the TOOC, it's reporting to the Grade Center. So when they complete it, it reports, yes, they completed this and they get so many points for it. So yeah, how you want to run it is really up to you. We can do it multiple ways. So
Okay, all right, that's helpful to know. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, and you guys run these sessions every week, is that right?
No, we're not quite that.
Oh.
Once a month. Yeah, once a month.
Once
the first Wednesday.
Okay.
First Wednesday of every month, always at 10:30, and we always record them, and then we put them on our YouTube channel, and we'll send that out. I don't know. We wait and send it out in the newsletter now, don't we?
Newsletter,
Christian?
yeah.
So,
We'll copy it in the newsletter.
Yeah. So if you're not getting the newsletter for some reason, let us know. But it should go out to all the faculty. And it always has the link to our YouTube channel, and these design times are always right there. So.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. This was very helpful.
Awesome. That's great. We love having an audience. Usually it's just us talking to ourselves. So.
I know, right?
We had clinical experiences all semester at this time, so but I'll be tuning in all summer, and I'll check out the YouTube channel too for the archived. Yeah. Sessions.
I'm still waiting for somebody to call in saying, hi, this is a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah.
Gonna do a little card talk. Okay.
Yeah, do a little card talk. Click and clack.
Yeah. Okay.
Carol, did you have a question?
Yes, I did have a question. I've been kind of taking notes here, and I have a question about notes, which is not necessarily on our topic. So the notes that I've taken within, this WebEx, do they automatically get sent to me, email, or how does that work? Or do I have to copy and paste them?
You'll have to copy and paste those. In the actual WebEx interface, the notes section is really just a way for you to catalog what your thoughts are. But yeah, you have to copy and paste those out to actually save them.
Okay. And I was thinking too, I already have some videos set up, and I can see in areas where I could pause them and have students do an interface. Will I have to redo those videos in order to get those interfaces embedded in that?
No, Articulate will allow us to open up any kind of MP4 or Windows movie file, however you have those saved.
They're in Kaltura.
They're in Kaltura, perfect. Kaltura exports as an MP4. So the videos that I had uploaded in the Kaltura training, I just recorded them in Kaltura, dumped them into Articulate, and then you can set up timings where you can pause that video at a certain section, and then have it skip over to you know, an interface or whatever you want it to be, and then when they're finished, the video continues.
Okay. Okay.
So basically, all we'd need to know is where you'd want to insert something else, like a quiz question or something like that, and and obviously what the question is and the answers and all that stuff, and we would just put it in there, and then the video would go on, and then so yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I could see some areas where the courses that I'm teaching online would definitely, that would help.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
They're more likely to get what you want out of a lecture if you stop and ask them questions. I mean, it's just like a face-to-face course. You know, if you stop and ask some questions or do a clicker poll or something like that, they're going to pay more attention and they're going to get more out of it. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Hey, no problem. So if there are no other questions, I just want to put in a plug for our next design time, which will be, again, the first Wednesday in June, which happens to be June 1st. And we will, it will be Dawn and I talking about grading with rubrics. So that's our next episode, and we'll plug that in our newsletter when it comes out, but be sure to tune in next time for that topic. And again, we'll be posting this on our YouTube channel later today. And if you think of questions after the fact, by the way, please don't hesitate to ask us, you know, email us or call us, and we're always happy to answer questions.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a great
Bye.
day. See you later.
All right, bye-bye.